Hey, Raindrops. On today's episode of Reality with the King, I am in the presence of greatness. Ladies, gentlemen, gays, and theys, give it up for the podcast king, the reality icon, the host who does the most, Nick Viall.
That's quite the intro.
Listen, I'm so happy to talk to you.
I'm happy to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So a little behind the scenes tea. So I'm going to tell you all how much of a great guy Nick is, because I know people think, oh my gosh, he's this or that. Listen, in real life, I had a studio booked for my guy an hour ago. No one showed up. His publicist and Nick were like, let's just pivot and come to our studio. And Nick was like, do you need a ride? I'm like, I can catch an Uber or a Lyft or the train. He's like, come ride with me, dude. So listen, all of that talk about what this guy does or doesn't do, I'm here to tell you he is the nicest. And thank you so much for pivoting the way you did. I don't understand, Nick, why people think you're a bad guy. I don't get that.
You know, I have opinions. You know, and I'm white and I'm straight. So
I think you're doing well.
You know, but yeah, I mean, listen, I think as you know, just like I think the reality TV space is you have to embrace the discourse. You know, I'm always like reminding my team, it is not our jobs to be liked. It is our job to like give things people to care about. Mm-hmm. You know, we want people to be engaged in what we're doing. We want them to certainly enjoy being liked, and we want people to agree with us at times, but it's more important that they care.
Yeah.
It's not interesting to just say the popular thing. We're also not trying to say things just to be divisive either. You know, we're not, I'm a huge sports fan, and I find it irritating. There's like a gentleman named Skip Bayless, for those of you who follow sports, you would know, but like there's certain people in sports who are just, they say things knowing it's going to get people riled up, like knowing it's going to be divisive. They don't even believe in what they're saying. And that's certainly something that we don't do that, but we are willing to like, have an opinion and allow people to disagree with it. And I think, and like in reality TV, it's just like I always kind of equate it to sports, because we cover reality TV like sports. We're like, I love rooting against the Minnesota Vikings as much as I enjoy rooting for my Green Bay Packers. So it's like it's fun to like hate on things. As we know, as humans, we do that all the time. And sports is like an outlet for people to like have a hopefully a healthy amount of hate. And I think reality TV for its fans offer that same outlet where like we're not just rooting for Meredith Marks. Sometimes we're rooting against Brittany Bateman. Now I'm a Brittany Bateman stan.
I love you,
but
so
you know
much.
what I'm saying? Like we pick our sides, and so when we are giving our commentary about various characters online, that often comes with talking our shit. For people who are like, don't talk shit about Lisa Barlow, they're like, that's my queen, you know what I'm saying? And I'm out there being like, well, I got some shit to say, and that is often met with, feedback.
Listen, I'm fascinated by you because you are a straight white male. You're married. You have a beautiful daughter, River. But you understand Housewives in a way that I haven't heard from a straight guy. Talk to me about, like, how are you able to understand the complexities of Housewives the way you do a football game?
Well, first of all, thank you. Because I feel like and especially Bravo world, they're very protective of their Bravo celebrities. So it's been an initiation to just like, when we were like, hey, we're gonna start talking about Bravo, and I think that was met with a lot of like, oh really, obviously I come from the reality TV space, being a part of like Bachelor Nation, and just like, I think all reality TV isn't made the same, but there are a lot of similarities, just how reality TV is produced, and just kind of those inner workings. So I have a PhD in reality TV in general, and I think that's helped just relate to from a TV standpoint. Ever since I've been a part of Bachelor Nation, I've had an audience predominantly of women. I have 6 sisters. I, as someone as a straight male who's dated women, have always tried to be someone who's willing to learn, and with the goal of being like a good partner. And I've always just been fascinated with interpersonal relationships in general, as someone who has built part of our show is just giving like relationship advice to all people a lot. Again, with my audience being predominantly women, I've learned from them as much as I hope they've learned from me. And so again, like I also, not to go, super deep, I think, clearly we obviously live in a time where identity is often talked about, in terms of like who we are. But I really think as someone who, as a straight white guy, who's covered reality TV and has had an audience of women and has learned from them as much as I have, that as people, we have way more similarities than we have differences. Mm-hmm. There are certainly differences that, we all have. And so when it comes to interpersonal relationships and the things that trigger us and how our egos play a role in the decisions that we make, humans will human. And I think, not trying to, and so to that degree, I've often looked for the ways I'm more similar with my audience or with like with the Housewives. I've been activated before. I have led with my ego. I have felt embarrassed. I have felt humiliated. I have been prideful, and all those things. And like, that's ultimately what we're breaking down with Housewives. And I think all of that kind of goes into it. And then, I also try to bring the level of perspective that we're as the outsider, as the person who like from the male point of view, mm-hmm. Which again is often criticized and critiqued. But like, I also think even for my, our critics of our show are number ones. We love them. Like without them, it's hard to have a show, especially the type of show that we have, mm-hmm. because like people like, they want to listen because like, I hope that we're creating a community, with a common shared interest in like Housewives and reality TV. And just like as a sports fan, I am looking for takes, not just to agree with, but also to disagree with. I want them to like make me think about, well, that's an interesting point, or like, just to care about things. I think we live in a world where it's hard to care about things these days, or we're told to care about things that like honestly are just so goddamn divisive. Yeah. That like reality TV brings it. It's like hopefully something that is fun, a little messy, a little drama, but ultimately like something that like brings us together.
No, I could not agree with you more. And I think the reason why your podcast is such a huge success is because you do have a voice in this reality landscape. I mean, we always talk about the Housewives fandom, but what I have learned, Nick, is there is nothing like the Bachelor Nation.
I think Bravo is its match for sure.
Who has the craziest fan base, Bachelor Nation or Housewives?
I think both. And here's what I mean by that is because like, as someone who comes from Bachelor Nation,
yeah,
I was the villain on my first season, debatable on the second season, but I've always been like controversial. And this was before I ever watched Vanderpump or Housewives. And I was controversial for interrupting. I was controversial for like not being there to make friends, where Jax was controversial for fucking a stripper in Vegas and gaslighting his friends, and multiply cheating, getting arrested and cheating on his partner. And so for me, it was like, wait, I started watching Bravo. I was like, excuse me, what is going on in this universe? And so just the level of like, just the things that people are doing. And so which is why you could argue that Bravo Nation is way more intense because they're sweating the small stuff. You know, they're freaking out over just absolutely nothing. You know, where you're just like, wait, how is this? How are people reacting to this? Because it's, you know, it's network television, it's ABC, Disney, and so like they're not really talking. You know, like so I think that it's creating. Because I think people just want drama in their lives. We all say we don't want drama, and we all do. And so I think I think Bachelor Nation, its fan base, is often looking for things that it's not even there. They're blowing things out of proportion. They will see a scene between two people and then be so confidently convinced that person's gaslighting this other person. Where it's like, are you sure? Like, are we watching the same thing? Like, maybe, but like, you might be jumping to conclusions. Where I think you have Bravo World, where they, in the best possible way, they're, you know, it's cable. Mm-hmm. They have a lot more leeway. They're talking about some way more messier topics. And so then you have other things that are more mundane that are kind of like swept under the rug, right? But that being said, I think the intensity is probably the same. Megan, can you hit that? So weird. I think the intensity is the same, where like both fan bases, you know, like Love Island, right? Like Love Island right now, it's the number one, right?
For sure.
And I was talking to a former Bachelor producer, and he was like, listen, like, because then that's when you have people like stalking the talent, right? Finding old tweets. Look, it's like people will come, like bring up stuff from like 8 years ago. I'm like, where did they find this stuff? And it'll be like someone who, like, I went to a party with this person and I knew them and they're in the background of the photo and they're, but like that just speaks to how popular that show is, because the larger the fan base, there are crazy online people everywhere. And so the larger the show, the more popular the show, the more intense its fan base becomes. And so, but to that point, I'm just saying, like, Bravo has its bloggers. They have their people on Reddit. They have their people deep diving its cast members. Bachelor Nation has that as well. And at the height of Bachelor Nation, yeah, it's just like they're doing the background checks, to get on the show, all these people say they have background checks, and then all of a sudden the fans get involved and they're like, no, we'll do the background checks. And you really know how popular a show is when they're, I don't think it's that productive or often right, but like when they're deep diving every little thing about their past and critiquing every little thing and making, and breaking it down and, and all those things. But I would say equally intense, but just intense in different ways.
And that's the thing about you, because you have this confidence and you are like this tall, attractive man. You clearly you're married now, but I'm pretty sure your single days, there's never been a woman who was like not interested in you.
Sure.
He's a tall glass of water. Natalie, you did well, my girl. With that being said, you're one of 11 children.
Yeah.
Growing up in a Catholic household. You're the second oldest, correct? I'm one of 10 kids.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Damn.
No, so I get you. Listen, this
Where
is
do
my
you fall
brother.
in line?
I'm the middle. I'm number 5 out of 10. You're number 2 out of 11. I still felt that as a child growing up in that big household, you always had to find your place and your own identity outside of your siblings. And it's not sort of coincidental that you and I, coming from big families, we sort of carved our own path. I was talking to you earlier about this on the drive here. I am so impressed with you because there's a lot of bachelors who's done a season, infamous times, and you never hear from them again. And I think there's something about you and I growing up in big families to where when shit got tough, you had your siblings humbling you, and you had to figure shit out.
Yeah.
And do you credit your childhood with the way you've been able to even surpass your predecessors on Bachelor and you're very humble. But I said this to you earlier, Nick, you have really built this media empire.
Well, thank you. I called it a media boutique.
You did.
Yeah, I hope to. We're growing, I'm very proud of how we've grown. We just moved into a brand new office space and a brand new studio, which is very exciting for us. And the first office space that like we rented was like, it was like me and two other employees. And I was like, I don't even know if we need this, but like, sure, trying to like act the part. So it's very exciting to grow, but like, obviously we're still very small and boutique-y. But yeah, I definitely think, my family upbringing played a role, right? Like my parents were very blue collar. I had amazing parents and amazing childhood, but like out of necessity, I always saw them worry about money. And I had a very privileged and great childhood relative to like, I guess so many people, but like, again, I always saw my parents worry about money. They gave us everything we needed, but everything we wanted, we had to earn, and so, RIP, but our neighbor who recently just passed, like my first job was, my mom has an amazing work ethic. I get my work ethic from my mom, but my first job was being like 7, 8 years old, and our neighbors were tearing out their old floor, and I was just like with a thing, like scraping the floor for like $2 an hour, or like the next day at church, I couldn't move my hands. But that was, and I remember they were like, you can stop. But like, I've always had that, again, like I wanted things. My parents couldn't afford it. And so, the ability to earn was something that like it allowed me to do things. So I think maybe that was instilled in me early on. And then like, I guess like just, I've carried that forward, and, I do have, I've been asked a lot recently in terms of like, what do I think has separated me from my peers and allowed us, me and my team to have the success that we've had. But I think a lot of people would roll their eyes about people calling me humble. I have an immense amount of confidence in myself. That is for sure. And
that's not bad.
Yeah. But I've given feedback to my peers, various peers at time that wasn't received very well, about like, don't be a reality TV diva. Understand the difference between the access you have and the credibility you have. And I've always said like being on reality TV as a reality TV star gives you almost unlimited access in this town, which is infinitely invaluable. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's super valuable. But it gives you no credibility. You're a circus act to some people, but you're still getting in rooms. And if you're getting in rooms with people, you have a chance to build your own credibility, because like you're starting at the bottom, they have low expectations of you. They think you're probably dumb. And maybe don't have the same whatever work ethic, but whatever you do show them, and if you have humility, and if you ask for help rather than or you've asked for advice or for help in terms of like guidance, but not necessarily like a favor, or you don't come in with an expectation of, hey, I'm the lead of this show and I'm a big deal, and what acting jobs do you have for me? I'm from the Midwest, and so when I went on The Bachelor, even as like the villain, everyone in my circle in the Midwest was like, you've made it. You are it. You're gonna be on this billboard. You're gonna be getting this, and you're gonna be getting that, because to them it was a huge deal. For 3 years I was on ABC every Monday night, for various things. But you don't have any credibility. And I think a lot of people, burn bridges, and there's a like sense of entitlement, I think, for some people. And I also like tried and failed at a lot of things, between coming off of Dancing with the Stars, which is, I think, you have, the Bachelor kind of trajectory. Yes. It's like,
you're a Bachelor first, and then you transition
you hopefully get Dancing with the Stars, and then it's kind of like then things get real slow real fast. And like I said, there was a period of time where I was on ABC every Monday night for 2+ years, which you kind of take for granted at the time. And then all of a sudden you're done, and you might get an opportunity here, a stunt cast there and things like that, but things slow down real fast. And I had to figure it out, and I tried and failed at a lot of things, and I finally, I found my thing in podcasting, and I was lucky enough to, I was 33 when I got on TV, so I had the benefit of having a decade-long career in corporate America, and I just was like, so I knew what I was giving up in the sense that like, I didn't move to LA to like party, and I didn't move to LA to like, I came here to work. I was just trying to pivot my career. And so with that said, I always, coming from corporate America, you have this kind of Monday through Friday mindset. Even like, and there were a lot of days I just had nothing to do. I was like, what do I do today? And you have this very like anxious feeling of being unproductive. And so there were still days I was like, I guess I don't know. But I would go to the coffee shop and get a coffee. And like when I was in sales and I'd work from home, I tried to stay busy and be productive. And whether it was networking or whether I was taking improv classes or things like that, I tried to figure it out. And I think I had that mindset that this is a job, rather than a mindset of like how more famous I can be, because I don't even like, I'd rather just have money and power, and like you can take the fame.
You don't like being famous?
I'm aware of its advantages, and I certainly appreciate the things that come with it, but it's a headache. I mean, I think Ben Affleck was recently interviewed, and I forget where, about something like this. The money's great, access is great. But the what does fame really get you? It's a headache, like other than like you're filling your ego of importance and things like that. It brings unnecessary attention. And I'm at the stage of my life where I am trying to make my world smaller, and my family, my immediate family, my wife, my daughter, we're trying to grow our family. Obviously my extended family, my siblings, my friends, like I only care about that. I'm almost completely offline. I'm lucky enough to have people post for me. I'm 85% offline, but like sports and stuff, but like, yeah, I'm just tunnel vision, like creatively. I used to like look at charts and I used to look at numbers. I'm lucky enough to have people do that for me. I'm only thinking about the future. I don't like, if we're heading the wrong direction from a show standpoint, I have people to like let me know. But for the most part, I'm only focused on like making the next show, growing the show. And like, again, like I'm very focused on like where my energy is going, and so, our energy is not intangible. It is not like what you think about matters. If you're thinking about whatever, I don't know, like as fun as it is to think about Housewives, like, I'm lucky enough that I can think about Housewives and it's a part of my business, but if I am thinking about, for example, a criticism I might receive from a fan or an audience member that ultimately is just criticism, right? Maybe not, I didn't do anything wrong other than like said something that upset someone, and they have the right to feel the way they feel. It serves me. It doesn't serve me to dwell on that, to focus on that, to get people to like me. That's not my responsibility. It is not my job. I have to take care of my people. I have employees to, try to mentor and be a good boss to them, and family members to be a good family member, and friends to be a good friends. Like I am not trying to be likable to my audience.
It's interesting because I want to get back to, like you said, you were once considered this villain, this controversial figure. When you enter the Bachelor landscape, I did an interview with Tiffany Pollard, who goes by New York, and she's known for Flavor of Love.
Sure.
And I did an interview with her, and she said, I knew going in that I played up this character because it benefited me.
Sure.
And that's how I was able to get these spinoffs and be iconic and being on House of Villains as of today. Was it methodical for you entering that space, or did you unfortunately get what some people call the villain edit, and you kind of just lean into it?
It was definitely not methodical, and I certainly didn't lean into it because, like, as much as, like I just said, it's not my job to be liked. I want to be liked. I'd prefer to be liked. I've never enjoyed being the villain. And because the way Bachelor Nation is, like, now I always say, like, one thing I learned about that show is, like, it taught you that you can feel in love and not be in love. It's a manufactured world that manufactures feelings. But the feelings I felt in that moment were very real. And with that being said, I think it is emotionally hard for that universe because, like, from what I understand about, like, different, like, say, Bravo world and Bachelor world, Bachelor is one of the most authentic. It is incredibly staged, but it's in no way scripted. And by staged, I mean, it's a staged atmosphere. Love is Blind, pods. That's a controlled atmosphere, So, like, it's a literal science experiment of, like, these are the parameters in which you're falling in love. But, like, the conversations you want to have, like, that's up to you. And so if you're in that environment and you are feeling these intense feelings, it sucks to be made the villain for something that feels authentic to you, and you're leading with your heart, and you're doing, and then have that be portrayed in a way that you were like, well, first of all, that's not what happened. Second of all, like, it sucks to have something that was so emotionally, like, meaningful to you be critiqued and torn apart, rather than being like, hey, I'm just playing a character, and, like, and things like that. But I never cared enough to have it change me trying to be authentic, because I just learned early on that, like, they're going to do what they want to do. And by they, I mean the networks, the people in the editing room, like, they can, I still think more people in reality TV are made to look better than they are made to look worse, but no one acknowledges that, as we talked about on my show the other day. But every once in a while, someone gets a bad beat. Someone takes it on the chin, sometimes you are portrayed in a way that feels unfair. And there's nothing you can do about it. But the most thing you can do, and that's why Bravo, like, any reality TV star, if you have the benefit of being on multiple seasons, like, if it's a one-off, there's only so much, sometimes you take it on the chin, there's not much you can do.
Right.
But if you're a housewife, if you've been a recurring character like I was for a period of time on Bachelor, if you can be authentic, people, you will find your fan base. You will find your lane. There will be people who say, you know what, I resonate with that person. I fuck with him or her. And, Ashley Ian Canetti for Bachelor Nation, seems like she's going to be a new housewife in Rhode Island.
Okay.
But, like, she is someone who, like, her first appearance on Bachelor, she had a big personality, and she was goofy and a little eccentric, and it was met with, because of Bachelor Nation, which is, like, they like their very prim and proper, polite, those are all the fan favorites season one. It's just, like, the unproblematic king or queens who are just, like, gentlemen and ladies and whatever. And Ashley was Ashley. And she got a lot of criticism season one, but she kept coming back, and she was always the same Ashley. And so that was like, no, I can trust that person, And I think when you see housewives be consistent with who they are, it's not about, you'll have your critics, but it's like, and so many people, I will say, in Bachelor Nation, and I've said this to a handful of alumni, they make the mistake of expecting to be universally loved, because a lot of them will go on a first season and be the overwhelming fan favorites. But, like, and that can happen in a one-off situation, for a one season, you could be the fan favorite, and it's hard to find criticism. But people that gets boring. So when you go back, people are gonna be like, all right, what can we hate, And it's just like, and I think some people can't handle that. And I think that's, to go on reality TV and expect to be universally loved is a little arrogant. Because reality TV, we are, the reason why it's so fun to watch is because we're all, it's the Sex and the City. I'm Miranda, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You're finding, who am I and who are the people who I am not, and you want to protect the people you connect with, and you want to, kind of criticize the people you don't, because sometimes the people you're watching on reality, like the people who hate me, they don't know me, but I guarantee I remind them of someone they dated or fucked them over. And not that I am that person, but they only have to see one moment of from something they see on TV or something they heard on my show to be like, to be triggered, to be activated, and be like, I don't know what it is about his face, but I do not fuck with him, And it's not me; it's just someone that I remind them of, And so I've learned to accept that and not try to fight it.
Well, no, I think it's the fact that you embrace it all, and listen, you're humble to me in the sense of. And this is coming from a producer who's done Housewives since 2008. So that's like going on, more than 17 years. And when former housewives are off the show and they try to dibble and dabble in other things, I always say to them, but you have to be consistent if you want to do something outside of that show. The Viall Files is a humongous fucking hit, dude. It's a huge podcast.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. No. It's huge. And the reason why I want to give you credit for the success of that, Nick, is because I know so many reality stars with potential, but their lack of consistency derails them from ever being seen outside of anything than their previous effort. Your consistency of this podcast has made it arguably, a top 10 podcast that people love. You are able to get all the guests you want. I'm sure no one tells you no, for real. But talk to me about the fact that the life after reality television is hard, and you can fall in terms of being infamous. But dude, you were able to really be consistent. And I really want you to talk about the fact that it's not like somebody give you a podcast and all of a sudden it's a hit. Like, I was on his show and he has a team. You have a team. This is a real business. This is a real fucking business. And it's all because you were able to, with your sales background, being one of 11 children, you were able to say, I got this opportunity. Other things failed, but at least I did it. But talk to me about the consistency that really afforded you to say, like, dude, you have a fucking hit mainstream podcast as a former reality star.
Thanks again for the compliment. I always say, like, shavings make a pile. I learned that in my corporate days, but I really believe in it, right? It's like you always have to play the long game. And that's something I think a lot of people in the reality TV space don't do or understand. It's like, you can't live and die by every success or failure. When you're high, you gotta humble yourself and know it won't last. And when you're low, you also have to pick yourself up and know it won't last. And just, again, be consistent. I also just love what I do, and I love it. And I always the confidence is I've always, when I started the show, there was always a part of me that was I deserve to be this, not that I deserve, but this show deserves to be talked about with the biggest shows out there. Before it ever was, I always acted like it should. And I still act like that. People definitely say no to us, for various reasons, but it's funny when, my publicist is here with us, and if you hear my manager, I'm always bitching. I act like the show is failing every day. Yeah, ask my wife. I am in a constant state of panic about how the show is doing, and that's something I personally have to work on a little bit. But there, and that is just managing my mental health and having that balance. And I think that comes from being one of 11, mm-hmm. that scarcity mindset, of
Absolutely.
could all go away, but yeah, and I'm always like, my wife and I talk about that a lot, where it's just like, we are very grateful of where we're at in our lives, but there's a recognition that it's not guaranteed in the future. And so like, we want to keep working hard. And yeah, I mean, like, listen, I'm lucky enough to do this for a living. And so it's kind of like, well, let's see what we can build it, yeah. And I'm doing things I never imagined I would do, and yeah, I don't know. It's just like, it's a lot of fun, and it's cool to see. And like, more importantly, like, now it's just like, at first I was just trying to, when you first start making money in this space, it's because like, you can get social, like Instagram or whatever and things like that. And I was just like, and times have changed, but like, 8 years ago, I was like, this is not going to be available for me in a while, Mm-hmm. I didn't realize the influencer market would take off the way it did, but either way, I was always focused on assuming that my ability to make money off of Instagram was going to go away. And I certainly didn't want to rely on having to go in front of the camera as a reality TV star to survive. That was, I didn't want to rely on that. So I was just always trying to figure out, could I make something for myself in this space of entertainment that it could be my own. And so that was step one. It was just like, I was trying not to have to go back to my old job. That was the only goal. Mm-hmm. Like, build something that's sustainable so that you don't have to call up some people and be like, hey man, like, can I come back? And then once I accomplished that goal, it was more like, well, how big can it go? And now I get to take care of my family and, and my parents, and, do some amazing things, that I never would have imagined doing. And now I have everything I possibly want. And now I'm just trying to maintain.
Who's the one guest you want on your show? Your dream guest?
Well, if I say, in reality, there's reality TV and there's non-reality TV.
Okay, give me one of each.
I've always said Lana Del Rey, in terms of, I know she's a big fan of reality TV. I find her to be incredibly fascinating. I love her music. Harry Styles I would be a big fan. I've always been a big fan of Ryan Reynolds, and I've met him a few times, and I hope to have him on. In the reality space, I really honestly want Heather
Dubrow.
No, I've had Heather Dubrow on. So I would have loved Heather.
Salt Lake?
Yeah.
Oh.
Only because, Heather was supposed to come on.
What happened?
Heather's afraid. I think Heather's mad at me because I've had Monica on. They're fickle over there. When I first met Heather, it was at the Variety, like 40 most powerful women in yes. reality TV, and I hadn't watched Salt Lake yet. And Heather approaches me, and she's like, Nick, I need to come on your show. I was like, great. My wife's like, that's fucking Heather. And I'm like, okay, And then I quickly was like, and that's when I started watching. Immediately became a fan of Salt Lake. It's so good. And then Heather kind of chickened out. I think, I've learned how, she chickened out, whatever. I'll just say it. I think she chickened out.
They do.
Yeah. And since then she's been kind of just punting. And then we've had Monica on a couple times. And listen, I don't know what's going on with that. I've met Monica. I'm not saying she's my ride or die by any means, and I'm not telling her my deepest, darkest secrets. But I don't think she seems all right to me.
I think she's cool as shit, personally.
Yeah, she's been pretty real and authentic, and compared to, I don't know. Anyway, but I think there's a lot of sensitivity there. But I think I'm a huge fan of Heather as a housewife, and I don't think she realizes her own potential. And I think she's probably one of the smartest of that group. And maybe this is all part of her calculation, but I think whenever she's ready to step up and be queen bee, she could be, but right now she's just still willing to follow Lisa Barlow or Jen Shaw, even though Jen's in prison. And I think when Gina, is it last season, talked about Heather was always like the girl in high school who wanted to be friends with like the popular girls. Like I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And I just think, like Heather's a really strong woman, and I find her to, I think she's funny, and I think she's got a lot there, but I would love to have a conversation with her about how she moves and why she moves the way she does. So I think that would be a really fascinating conversation. So I hope, Heather, if you're out there, I mean, I've sent her a handful of texts.
Does she respond to them?
She sometimes does. Yeah.
Sometimes.
She says she's not doing any press right now.
Nick, you are so likable. I don't understand why people don't like you. I think you're so funny. You give me Ryan Reynolds, by the way. It's no surprise that you want him. You're like Ryan Reynolds-esque to me.
I was referred to as the Walmart Ryan Reynolds on my Bachelor season, which honestly I'll take. It's I told him that when I first met him, and he reminded me that Walmart is an American brand with some great deals.
I love it. Well, speaking of great deals, listen, dude, you made a deal with God when you met your wife, Natalie. I was able to meet her when I was on your podcast, and she is so sweet, so beautiful. I love the fact that she slid in your DMs.
She did. Yeah.
Which I'm like, score for you.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you this, because listen, I'm sure she wasn't the first to do that. When that happened, were you sort of like what made you respond to it?
What made me respond to it? I mean,
listen, she's
Instagram's a visual platform, you know.
You know what I mean?
But once we met in person.
Wait. Do you remember what she said to you?
Yeah, she said, "You're unreal." Yeah.
Like the Lifetime spoof of the Bachelor show, Unreal?
No, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was a pun,
okay.
but it could have been.
Okay.
And
you said,
I don't remember specifically. I went and found a picture of her that she posted and replied to that with like a question of some kind. She was like walking on the beach, obviously in a bathing suit. And it was like, like the shore. It's something about walking on water, and are you Jesus or something stupid.
I love it.
When you're in the moment, it sounds charming. But yeah, I'm lucky in so many ways to have Natalie as my partner. And I say partner not to be politically correct, but I say it because she's truly my partner. And that's something I definitely learned from my parents as they've always operated as a team. Even when raising their kids, like for us, they were a united front. And we are very much a team, whether it's parenting our daughter, holding each other accountable in our relationship. It sounds corny, but we spend all our time together. She's my best friend in that sense of she's the person I run ideas by, and she's got I think an incredible taste, and a keen eye. And then also she's incredibly funny. And I think, this show was 3 or some years in existence when I met her, and she was a surgical tech. She had her own thing, and at the time when I met her, I very much loved that she had her own thing, and she was passionate about her own thing. And then when we went public, and she, it was eventually, when are you gonna have your girlfriend on the show? And then it was we took a while, then it happened, and then I was like, man, she's funny, she's she was kind of a natural. And then it wasn't, I don't remember being I I don't remember like having like a very specific thought about like, or a pitch, but it kind of happened organically. And I was like, yeah, you know, like I've always been a male host with an audience of women. We've always had women voices on this show. Most of our guests are predominantly women. But I was like, I always felt like she was like, as Marcia came on, I felt like, you're kind of the missing piece of this show in a sense. And we started doing the Going Deeper episodes. And again, I think I've put a lot of effort as an interviewer and as a host, understanding who my audience is, understanding that as a straight white male, I have to be self-aware about the topics we cover and the questions I ask and things like that. And I think I do a good job of handling those topics and having the appropriate amount of empathy. But having my wife by my side as a woman who has had her own lived experiences and in adversity she's had to overcome, it rounds out, some of those conversations in the best possible way. And again, I think she's hilarious and she's a lot of fun. And to me, I always say, like, she's the star of the show. She's the star of our relationship. I work really hard, and I know enough to be dangerous, but like, she is effortless in her talents, and she's a great partner, both in life and on the show.
I mean, is there a Kleenex here? So that was so kind.
Oh, it's all true.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the fact that you're able to emote in that way, because it's nice to hear a husband speak of his wife in that way. So I find that to be sweet.
Well, thank you. And I think it's really important, as someone who like talks about relationships, I think it's really important for couples to protect their relationship. I'll get blown away. Like, Natalie and I will be out with other people and couples where it's just like the way they will bicker in front of us or other people. I always, we work hard on our relationship, and like every relationship, we work through issues and we work through things. But we very much, we protect our relationship, and so we do couples therapy, we work through, and so, I think it's important, especially for men, to, speak kindly publicly about their partners, and advocate for their partners. And again, nothing I'm saying is nothing I don't believe about my wife, but I think it's very, it's just like, you just see so many couples out there like roll their eye, it's like, you're like, oh my God, Chad. It's just, you see it in some of the Bravo celebrities, where it's just the way they throw their partners under the bus. It's like, oh my God, it's just like, hey, you willing to take the bullet for me today? It's like, oh my God, but yeah, and then, I think, for all the, it's the couples, I think, in reality TV who have been able to work, I think probably the common thread is they've prioritized their relationships over their brand, with their audience, and played the long game and haven't sold anyone out for their own personal benefit.
No, and I love that. I mean, listen, you two are now hosts of a Netflix dating series launching in 2026.
Yeah.
Age of Attraction, which is such a great vehicle for the two of you, because you guys have an 18-year age gap. So what better host to really showcase that age is nothing but a number when it comes to finding love. I want to talk about, before I let you go, just about that show and how it sort of relates to your relationship, because there is an 18-year age gap that people think like, oh, that's so interesting.
It's a show that focuses on ageless dating. And I think the word age gap has kind of has this like negative connotation. I'm really excited for people to see it. We've heard, obviously we're there for filming it, but you don't know what you film and how it gets packaged. We've seen a little bit of it. and the feedback has been really exciting, and I think there's a lot of people involved in this project are very excited for its potential, but well, I guess we'll see. I think more importantly, I think it's meant to be aspirational and inspirational, because we now live in a time where I think we've never been more lonely, and all the single people out there, if you're listening, you're all nodding your heads about how difficult dating it is. Everyone feels like there's no good options out there. Obviously, dating apps have stopped really being our friends in terms of actually caring about us matching with people. And I think this is a show that's going to focus on compatibility, and showing that if you are willing to open up your mind, there are people you can be incredibly compatible with that you might not initially think of, off the bat. And then obviously, age plays a role in that. And so it's a show that's going to focus on love and connections, and it's going to hopefully inspire people who are struggling finding those connections, that there are people out there. And whether it's age, or we have so many self-limiting beliefs when it comes to dating, or we decide who our types are, or we have these superficial lists in our head of what they need to be, and that's often perpetuated by like dating apps, right? Because it's like, 6'2", finance, things like that. But it's compatibility that I think what makes people really fall in love and stand the test of time. My wife and I, we have an age difference in our relationship, but without question, easily, she's the person I've been most compatible with. She's the person this is the first relationship I ever had where we didn't compete, where we were each other's cheerleaders. We spend all our time together. We like a lot of the same TV shows and movies. We like a lot of the same foods. Everything is not a negotiation with us. I've been in relationships where you think like, well, love will conquer all, and every day is like, I don't want to eat that. And she's like, well, I don't want to eat that, and you're like and like that just gets exhausting. Like relationships are hard enough. And so like finding people that you are compatible with, that you have the same similar interests, that you share the same things. We might have an age difference in our relationship, but I quickly learned that when I met Natalie, she was excited about like having a family, and I was like, oh, well, so am I, and that worked out, and so, she had a very different childhood than I had, but in a childhood that like she was doing a lot of the same things in her late teens and early 20s that I was doing in my, early 30s, and so at the time when we met, we were both ready to enter a stage of life that was compatible. And I think this is a show that's going to focus on looking for the people you're most compatible with, and not getting bogged down by, what society might think or what your friends might think. But if you truly can find someone that you enjoy spending time with, that makes you feel good, and that you fall in love with, then I think there's a lot of hope. And I think that's what Age of Attraction is going to bring people.
So what's next for you? I feel like you've done it all, but it's like, what's next for Nick?
I just want to enjoy what I have. Obviously, I will always try to grow NV Media and the Viall Files, for sure. I am trying to enjoy what I have. Objectively speaking, I've surpassed all my wildest dreams, both professionally and personally. We certainly hope to grow our family. So a lot of just more of what I have, but also working on enjoying it, because I'm not good at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, look, where can people, I feel like everyone knows where to find you, but where can people find you, support you, the podcast, and everything you have going on?
I know you have many reality TV fans who passionately listen to your show. So yeah, if you're not already subscribed to the Viall Files, or you haven't checked us out, do so. Our reality recaps are every Tuesday and Thursday, and we cover a variety of reality TV shows and have a variety of guests, both people on reality TV and people who love reality TV. Our Going Deepers every Wednesday are more your traditional podcast format where it's a sit down with a public figure, often a reality TV star, and we dive deep into who they are. What I love most about those, and like as someone who's been on reality TV, we want to humanize our guests in a way that makes you see them beyond the character they play on TV, because all reality TV stars are siloed in a way that is limiting to who they really are as a person. And then if you're interested in like relationship discourse and hearing other people's interpersonal relationship problems, whether it's dating or family problems, and we give some feedback that you can either agree with and find helpful, or you can, hate watch and disagree with and play, armchair therapist. That's a show that's every Monday as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Nick. I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you. Come back on our show.
I will.
Carlos was on, I don't know when this comes out, but he was on a recent episode of Reality Recap. And I hope you come back again. You were great.
Oh, well. I'm allowed to. Just tell Mary to call me. All right. And I'm there. Thank you, guys. See you in the next one.
Bye.